let's look at Voco's product, their introduction into this market, V-Posil, that I think is a pretty straight flying arrow. I've had the opportunity to test this product now in the office for the last 6 or 8 months, and I've done a handful of cases with it. And so I will give you some of the advantages to this material. That said, I think I spent the better part of the lecture explaining why I think it's critical to have the hemostasis and the retraction, the soft tissue management down pat. And if you do that well, pretty much can get an impression with a lot of well-designed materials. That said, if you have your technique down pat and you also happen to have the best titanium arrow that flies the straightest, I think that's the best of all worlds. So here's the first differentiation between this product and a lot of the other manufacturers' products. One is that you will see, whether it's their wash material, their tray material, their putty, you will see all of them labeled as fast set. And so that might make you a little nervous. You say, well, you know, sometimes I want the luxury of being able to go a little slower. Sometimes it's a multiple unit case. The reason they're all labeled as fast set is that this material has smart timing incorporated into it. And I will talk a little bit about that in a second. What that means is it has great working time where you never have to rush. This is where rushing could be a detriment or something that starts to set up on you. Once it's inserted in the mouth, then it speeds up and goes into a snap set phase rather than having a long, slow gelation phase. And that's where you want quick action. What we want to do is reduce the amount of time that a patient has something uncomfortable in their mouth. More importantly, not just for patient comfort, the majority of distortions that happen during an impression are when materials are slowly gelling while the patient might be moving around, while sometimes us or our assistant is not paying focus on the amount of attention we're putting on the tray, or the worst case scenario when we let the patient just bite down onto the tray. So that critical timing is very important. So you'll see V-Posil kind of measured against this graph against one of its competitors. And this is what we're talking about. We want to have ample working time down here at the bottom of the graph where the material doesn't start to set up. So we can take our time, load the tray, inject the wash, but the minute we load it and seat it in the mouth, V-Posil goes through a very rapid snap set. And so the critical zone where there's likely to be distortions, that timing is reduced significantly. Versus something that has more of a linear set time like this, a linear ramp, has a longer critical time where distortions could happen. So that's why it's the best of both worlds. We really only need the fast set material because it's only fast after it goes in the mouth. Before that, you have ample working time. The next differentiation between here is how it reacts in a moist environment. The relative hydrophilicity or the contact angle, which refers to what a water droplet would do in contact with the material. You can see one that beads up like a fresh wax car versus one that relaxes and is very hydrophilic, will actually adhere to the surface that it's trying to contact. The primary benefit is how this material can really relax into potentially a wet interface. We hope that we got our tooth dry. We hope that we got our sulcus dry. We have talked about how not to have any heme. But remember, there's crevicular fluid, there's a micro lymphatic system that's involved. In general, it's the mouth. There's always going to be a hint of moisture that we can't always protect against. So if we have a relatively hydrophilic material compared to other competitors' products, we have a better chance of capturing the impression. And then the secondary impact on this is not just how it works in the mouth, but once we've captured an impression successfully, how wettable that impression is, meaning when we pour wet gypsum into that impression, will the stone flow through that impression and capture all the detail and make that negative image back into an accurate positive image. So it works on both ends, both on the capture and eventually manufacturing the models.